Thank you, Knight, I think, for that introduction. There were some things in my past that I try to keep secret, but it's not always possible. But what an honor this is, especially given the journalism giants who received it in the past. People like Katharine Graham, John Johnson, Ben Bradley, John Siegenthaler, and so many others. And as I see it, Al and I are setting a trend. Surely there will be more twosomes receiving the Kiplinger Award in the future. But for me, it's an extra special honor night knowing your grandfather, Willard, was instrumental almost 70 years ago in the founding of Washington's public television station, WETA, which has long been the home of the NewsHour. So thank you to the Kiplinger family for your contribution. I want to congratulate all of tonight's winners. What a remarkable group, and there are many more to come beyond those we've met already. I just have to thank three groups who are represented here tonight, my colleagues at the extraordinary PBS NewsHour team who do the impossible but must-do work every single day of covering this city, this country, and the world, and they do it in ways that astonish me and make me so proud. They have my back in ways that I could never possibly repay. Thank you to the PBS NewsHour team for being here. Thank you to my friends at the Carnegie Corporation of New York, which supports great journalism among the many other things that it does in support of a healthier and a safer world and a healthier and stronger America. And finally, thank you to the Duke Endowment, which is here, which supports education and good health in North and South Carolina. It means so much to have all of you here. There have been a lot of dark clouds in our business. The number of newspaper reporters and editors declined 45% over the last several decades. Major newspapers have disappeared or are a pale shadow of what they were. The amount of resources devoted to news by local television stations has shifted as large station groups consolidate. But it is also important and it's encouraging to note that there is high-quality, smart journalism flourishing in this country right now, and I want to celebrate that for just a moment. You just heard from Elizabeth Boo-Miller, the New York Times, setting the standard for us every day, print and digitally. They have increased the number of readers over what it was just a few years ago. The Washington Post has built a robust, remarkable digital presence. Both of these news organizations and others are setting the pace for all of us with groundbreaking reporting. Let's thank the Times and the Post again. To be parochial for a moment and recognizing, yes, PBS is different. We too embody serious and quality news. But compared, I want to share this with you, with just 4 years ago, the NewsHour's nightly broadcast audience at almost 2 million is up more than 34%. Our website had over 50 million visitors last year, up 40%. And on YouTube, where we live stream the NewsHour and related reporting, it is 5 times higher. There were over 200 million views last year. That's not because of me. That's because of the extraordinary work that my colleagues, many of whom are here tonight, are doing every morning and every night and all day long and on weekends and at times when the rest of us are asleep. They are at it, they are dedicated, and they just keep coming back because they believe so much in the importance of good journalism. Yes, there are still grave concerns out there, especially in state and local news coverage. Some major state capitals woefully undercovered. Global news, only a handful of news outlets truly dedicated to international reporting. But as I accept tonight, alongside Al, I want some of the focus to be on the great journalism being done around this country, even in trying times. The nonprofit Texas Tribune, excellent job covering state government and politics. And these are just a few. The Pittsburgh Post-Gazette coverage of the terrible synagogue murders, first rate. Rocky Mountain PBS, and the NBC affiliate in San Francisco, and I'm just naming a couple. These are organizations that are doing award-winning work. They are setting a standard for the rest of us. Elizabeth's former colleague, Jill Abramson, has noted that people will pay for news if it adds value. Quality matters. Al and I look forward to coming back to the National Press Club Foundation dinner for years to come and to celebrating the very best of American journalism. Thank you so much. And here's Al.
It's nice to be the walk-on. I want to thank the National Press Foundation, and I want to thank particularly Knight Kiplinger, whose family has contributed so much to quality journalism in America for so many years. And it's such an honor to be with some of the other honorees tonight. Elizabeth is an old friend. Lester probably did the most historic presidential interview, maybe, in a long time. And I want to particularly cite Chris Flavelle, who was my colleague at Bloomberg. I would come in on Saturdays sometimes, and sometimes Friday afternoon. Chris's wife and would come in to see him, and first it was with one kid, and then it was with two kids, and it kept growing. So Chris, I only have one bit of advice for you. Keep the honoraria. As usual, I agree with Judy Woodruff. But in addition to the economic challenges, there's another elephant in the room, if you will. In my last column for Bloomberg, I wrote that Donald Trump posed the greatest threat to a free press than any time since the Nixon administration. The next morning, I got an email from one of America's top newspaper editors who complained this was unfair to Nixon. It's one thing for the president to rail against Amazon. They're big boys, I read. They can take it. But something else, when he calls the Postmaster General to demand that she boost the company's postal rates to retaliate against the Washington Post. It's something else when he reportedly pressures the Justice Department on antitrust matters involving media companies he likes or he dislikes. He lauds a politician for roughing up a reporter. At an El Paso rally this week, as he was lashing out at the media, some thug tried to physically attack a BBC cameraman. And most despicably, he refuses to acknowledge the Saudi crown prince's complicity in the murder of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi with a so what shrug. You know, it's not new that journalists are being threatened, jailed, or killed around the globe. It is new that the President of the United States is indifferent. Ronald Reagan and George Bush were not indifferent. And it's hardly novel for a president to assault the press as biased, superficial, sensationalist. Few of you are as old as I am, so you won't remember Spiro T. Agnew's infamous nattering nabobs of negativism. I really think that had more of a ring to it than fake news or failing New York Times. But Trump's constant refrain of fake news has been picked up by dictators around the world, from Syria to Hungary to the Philippines, and this gives them any further excuse they might need for brutal crackdowns on journalists. The Russian Foreign Ministry has a fake news department. It's amazing this insidious mantra has caught on across America. Now, the response should not be confrontations at White House briefings or to fall into the false equivalency of balance for the sake of balance. And with its credibility so challenged, the press needs to be very careful that business interests don't creep into news decisions in the digital era. Reporters need to be a bit more cautious with tweets and think about whether it's a good idea that news reporters, as opposed to opinion columnists, should go on partisan cable television shows. But overall, I think the press, under these trying circumstances, is doing a great job. The news pages, as Judy noted, led by the Post and Times, are seeking to hold accountable an ethically challenged administration and a president who has an adversarial relationship with truth. That's not anti-Trump. That's great journalism. Finally, sometimes I hear, you're exaggerating. The press isn't under any real threat. Yeah, the rhetoric is harsh, but the record isn't. That's a variation of what I first heard when I arrived in the city almost 50 years ago. It was watch what we do, not what we say. That was Attorney General John Mitchell. We discovered what they did was worse than what they said. There may be equally important discoveries in the times ahead, but I think that the press is up to it at a time when great journalism and holding the powerful accountable has never been more important, and that's causes for celebration like this evening. Thank you.